Speculating Wildly About Crime is a group of people that came together by our fascination of true crime. The case presented to you today comes from facts that we have learned from various media outlets. Please recognize that we try our very best to relay the information as accurately as possible. Any thoughts and theories presented about each case are solely the opinions of this group. Through this process, our group has always been and will always be the advocate for the victim. In short, please note this is for entertainment purposes only. We're not doctors or even law enforcement, but we do invite you to speculate wildly with us today. For the second time, because we tried this once before, we're going to bring you the case of Nicole VanderHeyden out of Green Bay, Wisconsin. A couple sources that I looked into when doing some research on this case were A&E Killer Case, which is a phenomenal show. Didn't even know about it till I researched this case. Of course, Dateline, because who doesn't love a good Keith Morrison? And I believe he did this episode. If I'm wrong, let me know. Put it in the show notes. And then a podcast called The Trouble with Justice, as well as a Friend of the Fam podcast that we all know, a little podcast called This Story is Nuts. So if you all haven't checked that out, please check that out as well. But before we dive into it, other than, again, this is the second time a couple of us are hearing this, who's familiar with the case? Who also has done a little bit of research or knows about it? Okay, so we got a couple people. We got 1, 2, 3. Can't see everybody's hands. What's my final count? 4 or 5? Okay, so we got some familiarity. So good. We're not all going in blind. So we all know some things about this, and you all can put me in a check and ask some questions, and we can speculate wildly together, which is going to be great. We're all going to travel back to 2016, which was almost 10 years ago now, which is really sad to think about, but I'm old and I'm okay with it. Again, we're going back to Green Bay, Wisconsin, and unless you live under a football rock, I'll say an NFL football rock, you know that this is a town very well known for the Green Bay Packers. Also, the town where I spent almost all of my drinking days because I went to college there. So I lived there from about 2000 to 2008. Now you all officially know how old I am, and I'm dating myself. So I can remember the town like it was yesterday, right? And I actually go up there quite a bit still to this day. And I actually met my now husband there, which maybe is a good thing, maybe it isn't. I'm kidding. It's great. We have 2 kids. It's wonderful. I love them very much. But however, I unfortunately, or fortunately, probably fortunately, moved out of Green Bay before 2016. So I found this case many years later, and I was honestly shook. Like, Green Bay is not a place where you think of, especially when you look at a map of Wisconsin and you say, I wonder where the murders are. Green Bay it's not Green Bay, Wisconsin. It's Milwaukee. I know that also from personal experience. But Green Bay was a place that you go and raise your family, you go to college and you drink and you watch the Packers. That's it. You don't go there, you don't get murdered. So this was crazy for the whole town. I know you all are going to say, what about making a murderer? For another time, for another podcast, we'll talk about it later. Not even really Green Bay. So I digress. Anyways, so I'm going to give you a little bit of backstory on Nicole VanderHeyden. So prior to meeting what would be her now boyfriend in 2016, his name was Doug Dietrich. She was previously married. She did have 2 daughters. She met this guy, Doug. He's okay to look at. He's eye candy. He's fine. His family had money. So sure, you fall in love. And what do you do when you're in your mid-20s and you fall in love and you're drinking? You do the vertical dance on the bed, and they did that, and they got pregnant very quickly. So they met in January 2015. This case takes place May of 2016. At the time the case takes place, I believe their son is 4 months old. So y'all do the math. I went to school for accounting, but I don't practice it, so I'm not going to do it for you. But the reason I bring all this up is to know that, kind of painting the picture of what kind of relationship that they had, right? Because leading into this night, it's going to help you understand why a lot of the things happen, why some of the speculation went one way or the other. So obviously, they're in a new relationship. Doug's now father of 3 out of nowhere. I just thought I met this hot girl and I was going to hit it, and I got this whole thing, right? So anyways, needless to say, there was a lot of stress going on. And so when one of their moms, I can't remember which one it was, raised their hands and said, hey, y'all need a night out. Their friend said, yeah, I'm going to come and relieve your mom for babysitting later. They were like, yeah, yes, please, let's do this. I don't know about any of you all, but I was a mom. I am a mom. I still am a mom. I still have young kids, right? If somebody says, "Hey, I'm going to babysit your kids, you all go out and have a good night," I'm going, right? Anybody else with me? Yeah, it'd be stupid not to. I shouldn't say it'd be stupid not to. If that's not your thing, that's fine. If you're a devoted mother and that's all you do every day, all day, God bless you. It's not me. I like to get my breaks, but hey, you do you. So we'll fast forward to this night, May 20th, 2016. As I mentioned before, Nikki and Doug, they got a babysitter. They're going out for the night. They decided to start their night at a bar called the Watering Hole. It's Wisconsin. We name our bars weird shit. It is what it is. Just wait till later when you hear some other of the bar names and you're going to be like, what the actual, you know what? So anyways, they go to the Watering Hole. They're going to go there and watch this band called Steel Panther. I don't know. I don't know anything about them. Maybe they're super great. Maybe they're not, but that's what they're doing.
I'm just picturing like the cheesiest cover band ever with like spandex and wigs and
I honestly don't know. I feel like we should pull up a picture and put it in the show notes so everybody could see it because I think that would be really funny.
I picture our friend Carolina went to a concert last night,
Yeah.
and I thought about this whole like band and like the still whatever, and I pictured her watching them.
Probably not. Okay, the band she went to, I feel like has got to be better than Steel Panthers, but yeah, there, right? So this bar. Oh, Nat, did you look it up?
Yes, and you would not believe
Report.
we've got glam metal.
Like
yeah.
Kiss?
That's what I got too, Nat. Oh Lord, it
That
is
was
Hair
right.
Central's
Hair
fan. Post it. Oh, it has to go in the show notes. This is ridiculous.
It's going. It's going. I love it. We should have all dressed up as a member of the band for this recording. Side note for next time.
Next
We'll get there
time.
eventually.
I'm sorry, so are we doing a take 3 now?
I can't do this
No.
case anymore. No. So I want to paint the picture of this bar a little bit for you all. So I've been here once or twice. It's actually not even technically in Green Bay. It's in a little suburb called Howard or Swamico. I can't remember which one. Anyways, it's a huge building. There's no other bars by it. You go there to go to that bar. Usually you go there to see a band. That's it. And then you continue on your night. So that's number one I want to tell you about to paint the picture. Number two thing I want to tell you about, this bar is effing huge. Rooms upon rooms. Luke and I went there one night. I was probably on Nikki and Doug's level. Drinks were flowing good, but we lost each other. I didn't know where he was half the night. I was in the back room with the band. It was nuts. But I said it again, Kashi. You can call me out on it later, but it's going to be my word. But anyway, so I want to tell you that because Nikki and Doug actually managed to stay together the whole time they were at the Watering Hole. They stuck by each other. Maybe it's a new couple thing. Maybe it's whatever. Maybe it's a jealousy thing, which we're going to get into, put a pin in that. But they stuck by each other, which I was super impressed by because I have never been to that bar and done that feat. So maybe we can all road trip there one time. We can see if I can actually do it. Anybody been to Green Bay? Been to this bar?
Nope.
No, on my own? Okay.
Green Bay, of course, but not
Green Bay, obviously, yes. Okay, this is a road trip idea. We'll go like down the path of where Nikki went drinking that night. So that's note number 2 I wanted to make. And note number 3 is Nikki and Doug's relationship obviously was very new. Doug is this hotshot guy. He's super hot. His family has money. He's got a ton of friends. 98% of people, maybe even 100% of people they went out with this night were all Doug's friends. So Nikki didn't have like that one person that she could go, "Oh, my night sucks," or "Can I escape?" or "Can I talk to you?" She's at the mercy of what was going on. It was all of his friends, which maybe I've been there before too. And that sucks, right? Doesn't paint a good picture. So we're drinking, drinks are flowing heavily. This band's playing. I'm dropping everything on the ground. And we are now 3 hours later, and we're at around 11 p.m. and the show's coming to an end. So naturally,
man.
like I said, oh, go ahead.
No, I'm just so sad that the band is done.
No more Steel Panther. Exit stage left. Alice has left the building. We got to go somewhere else because, like I said, you walk outside and there's nothing. Like I should have pulled up and shared my screen with you all to show you. There's nothing. So, of course, in true fashion, this is another thing I want to paint about Green Bay. and maybe you could tell me if your all towns are similar, but when you were out in Green Bay and you were early to mid 20s, any bar you went to, some are better than others, any bar you went to was like a high school reunion. Anybody can relate to that?
No, I don't understand that. Not one. I graduated in a class of 560 students. I
They had
came
some
in
schools that
like,
big.
yeah, girl, and we have 100 of them.
Okay,
So
they did not.
I would have gone to my 20-year reunion last year, but I don't know anyone in my graduating class, and I literally never run into any of them. And I live on the same island as most of these people.
In true Green Bay fashion, Doug, one of his male friends, as they're going to the bathroom and they're leaving for the night, I don't know why I put that in quotes. I feel like it's bullshit what they're doing. They run into this girl that they haven't seen in forever and they went to high school with, and oh my God, we have to talk to her. And so everybody's a little drunk. And so I think there was a little bit of, we're going to this bar, everybody's going, some people are going, some people are not going. But fast forward to 12 minutes after the show ends. Yeah, this bar was that close. They're at a new bar called the Sardine Can. Another wonderful, not the best one we're going to hear tonight, but another wonderful bar. This bar had, I've only been there once, so people correct me if you're listening, I'm wrong, but I feel like it had this moving wall that they would put up or back to make it feel like a sardine can, depending on how busy they were.
It sounds awful.
It sucked. Sorry if y'all love the sardine can and you've been there and you own the bar, whatever. It was not my favorite place. I think I was there once, maybe twice. Had a cool patio. That's what I liked about it. The inside of the bar, not for me.
I'd be fine with it if I got to pick who I was packed like a sardine with.
No, we're talking about a bunch of sweaty drinking. Maybe there's a hot guy there. Maybe there's a hot girl there.
I was going to say, keep going. I like that. I'm going to the sardine.
I feel like this place did not survive COVID.
No, Janelle, I'm telling you, when we go on our road trip to Green Bay and we go to these bars that Nikki went to, sardine can still there. Everybody but Doug and his friend show up at this sardine can bar at 11-12 p.m. So they all settle in. I hope they took an Uber there. I'm 90% sure they did. Uber was a thing in 2016. Yes. Somebody fact check me. Yes. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. So 11-12 and 30 seconds, Nikki is a little bit on the jealous side. So was Doug, by the way. And she whips around. She was like, where the F is Doug? Oh, he stayed back at that bar. He's going to come here. Don't worry. Just go get a drink. She did worry. Anybody here watch Jersey Shore ever? Do you remember Ronnie and Sammy? This was them in this moment. So I'm talking rage call I know y'all didn't, but I'm going to put it out here for my Vanderpump Rules fans. This is Ronnie and Sammy, and this is Katie and Tom. Rage text, rage call. Into this happening now with Nikki and Doug. Nikki sees that Doug's not here, and she's calling, and she's calling, and she's calling, and she's texting, and she's texting, and she's texting. So I pulled only a few excerpts from what Dateline has. If y'all want to see Keith Morrison read them or hear it, it's actually pretty great. He reads verbatim every text that Nikki sent. So please go back and watch that. But just a few of I don't even want to call them favorites, the ones that I pulled out. She texted, what bitch are you with? Fuck you, abusive asshole. What slut are you with? None of your friends know where you are, etc., etc., etc. So y'all can know where this was likely going. A side note, for any of you who have been in a relationship like this, we have another friend of the pod who has a wonderful podcast called Surviving Abuse. So not to get serious, because we're here to laugh and talk about true crime, but just want to put a plug in there for that. Please check that out if you've been in a Nikki and Doug, a Ronnie and Sammy, or Katie and Tom situation, because you'll gain something from it. But anyways, back to our story. Here we are. I sidetrack a lot, but we're back in Green Bay. We're at the sardine can. Nikki's rage texting, calls him, no answer. So finally, this girl by the name of Angela, who they are all hanging out with. I don't think she's going to listen to this. Maybe she will. Sorry if you do, Angela. I met her 1 or 2 times. And every time I was under the influence, so please don't take everything I say with a grain of salt. She is a guy's girl and not a girl's girl. I'm just going to put that out there. Okay? So she's that girl. She is also don't fuck with me, I will fuck with you type of person. Okay? So she sees all this happening and she says, you know what, Nikki? Like, it's going to be fine. I'll just call Doug. No big deal. I'm sure he's going to hang up on me too. Then we're going to go have a fun night. Angela calls, ring. Hey, Angela, what's going on? Nikki is pissed. So
That's valid.
Yeah, super valid, right? What the fuck? Like, I've been calling you. We have a 4-month-old baby at home. What do y'all think? This is fucked up. So Angela, in her true don't fuck with me fashion, says, you need to get your ass here. This is bullshit. We are at the sardine can. You need to be here now. We're not okay with this. So, of course, Nikki is probably, I don't know, what are we on? Probably hour 3.5, 4. If she's drinking like I did in college, we're probably on beer number 8 or 9. She's not in a good headspace, right? And we're both in a very jealous relationship. You just answered the phone for another girl. Fuck it all. And that's exactly what she says. Fuck you. You're cool. Fuck you. I'm out. She's like, I am leaving. I don't want to be around you all. I don't want to be here when he gets here. I'm going. So they do this song and dance of, please don't go. Please stay here. He's coming. But eventually they see her kind of, and there's surveillance video, I believe on both the A&E special and the Dateline special I watched. There's surveillance of her walking out of the sardine can, which this bar, I promise Green Bay has better places to go out to the bar, but this bar again was in the middle of nowhere. It maybe had 1 or 2 bars by it. And there was like where Nikki eventually walked to, which we'll get to, there was some other bars down the road, but it wasn't a place that was going to be like very well lit. So I want to pause here and get some thoughts on what you all would do in this situation.
I feel like even if you haven't had a night like this, you have, or you weren't the people that were doing the fighting, you have been in a situation where your friends are doing this, or this is like the night ruiner.
I've been that girl multiple times. So
I've probably
we're like,
been
really?
both, where either the person rolling their eyes at somebody else or the person that eyes are being rolled about.
Yeah, I feel you. But what would you do in this case? Do you chase down the road after her and say, please don't go, and like physically grab her? Or do you say, fuck it, we're going to go find her? Or fuck it, she'll figure it out?
You go to the bar together, you leave together.
So Nikki goes off into a drunken darkness and she goes to head off into, I want to say she heads east to the right of the sardine can. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I'm going to go with tonight. So this is probably, what did they arrive at that bar at 11:12? They have this fight. So Nikki probably leaves the bar around, I'm speculating here, sorry, maybe 11:45, 12 o'clock, maybe later, because around 12:36 a.m., Doug and Nikki do finally connect on the phone. Obviously, she's crying, she's upset, she's drunk. He was like, hey, I've been looking for you. Please just come back to the sardine can. I'm going to make it better. Just come here. I'm really worried about you. Just do this and we'll make everything okay. And they hang up the phone. Doug thinks that's what's going to happen. That is not what happens. So we're going to journey on Doug's rest of his night. So he eventually has to, and he was doing a lot of driving around with his friend, and they went back to the sardine can a couple times. They also drank a couple times when they went back there. But finally around 2:40, 2:30, he was like, we got to go back and relieve this babysitter. Like, this is Nikki's friend. I don't even really know her. I got this baby at home, because I forgot to mention earlier, Nikki's other 2 daughters were with the father this night. So it was just the baby that was at home. So Doug goes back to their house that Nikki and Doug share together at around 2:40 a.m. to relieve the babysitter. He walks in without Nikki and his friend, and she was like, where's Nikki? What the hell's going on? And he gives this, I don't know, she got pissed at me and she's probably at a friend's house. She's sleeping it off. I tried looking for her, couldn't find her. But do you have some weed that we can smoke? The fuck? This is alibi 101, bro. No, don't do this. Don't do this. real mad at Doug at this point. I'm real mad at him for a lot of reasons, but don't fucking do this. Okay. So he explains the night away. They smoke up. Apparently it doesn't take long because at about 3 a.m. I think his friend finally went home. The babysitter goes home and I need to go to sleep. So he goes to bed and he said he wakes up with the baby once at 6:30 a.m., once at 11 a.m. So now we're going to go into Doug's story. And after I go into Doug's story, I want to hear what you all think about it before I go into the rest of this story. So we're at now. Doug came home. He went to bed. He says he woke up at this time and this time. And y'all have been here before. We know if we're hearing this, he's told this to the police, right? So we know what's coming. So 1:54 p.m. the following day, the police receive a 911 call, not from Doug. They call 911 because they come across a female body in a field. The body's found in this residential area. If I can picture it right, this was maybe like on the east side of Green Bay where used to be a ton of cow pastures, and then they built like all these, we'll call them McMansions or like mini McMansions and duplexes where they look really nice, but they're not really well built type of houses in this area. I think that's where they lived. So there are like fields and parks around there too. So they say, hey, we found this body in the field. Of course, 911 was like, is she alive? And they're like, I don't know. We're not going up to it. Just get your asses out here. So police finally go out there and they find this body within 2 miles or 3 miles of the home that Doug and Nikki shared. When they found this body, it was a female body. This body was completely nude with the exception of 2 socks on her feet, which put a pin in that will come back later, and a temporary paper bracelet, which all my millennials, if you've been to a bar and saw a band, you had one of these on your wrist. So that was paper bracelet that was on her wrist. The body, and fast forward alert if you don't want to hear about this, but it was nearly unrecognizable. The body had over 240, not 24, not 40, 240 injury marks. Cause of death was later determined to be strangulation and blunt force trauma to the head.
Which so far to me, this sounds like a personal attack.
Right. 240?
That you knew.
Like a crime of passion?
Right.
Yeah.
Like overkill, I guess is what.
Yeah, like the body's clearly dead, but I'm still going type of thing. So yeah, put a pin in that. I mean, we can all speculate a little bit right now. I feel like we're all speculating to the same thing. They got in this big fight. They have this new relationship. She has 240 wound marks. Where the fuck is Doug?
And who waits until 2:00 in the afternoon to...
Oh, no. We're getting to that. Later than 2
Later
p.m.
than that.
Later than 2 p.m.
Who doesn't care where the mother of their child is? We know assholes, but
narcissists, assholes. We can continue the list.
We could, but it's things point in Doug's direction, very much.
1000%.
And when he got up to feed their baby, like that would have. You can't just say, "Oh, I've been asleep. I didn't." You got up. That's not just go to the bathroom in the dark and then immediately come back to bed. That's
you're coherent to some extent, right?
You got to go to multiple rooms to get items and perform this task. Would you not also search the house to see if your significant other was in fact there?
And to hotel a little bit, if you were an innocent person and you found after an argument, right? So there's arguing, there's embarrassment, there's all these different emotions. And you find hours later when you're hungover or still buzzed and you're having to get up and take care of the kids. So you're having, like, you're drunk, you're angry, you're emotional, you're all these things. Like, I feel like if I was going through all that and still didn't see her or him home, that I would, if I was innocent, I would want to call the cops to make it an even bigger deal if she was out doing something and be like, I had to call the cops because I didn't know where.
But I'm gonna interject there, David. Is that today, David, or is that college David that's doing that, or is it both?
Oh, definitely college, David.
Okay.
Because I would get to
College
be,
David would be
I would
better
want
than
to
college
cause,
David.
I wouldn't go to murder, right? If I was innocent, I wouldn't go to murder. I would be like, oh, she's passed out somewhere, so I'm going to cause a scene to let her know how irresponsible she is to get that last little jab of you're an unfit mother, you're an
Oh,
unfit wife, you're all these things. I had to call the cops. Now you're embarrassed and you're feeling all the things that I felt.
I could see that. Okay. Yeah. College Jamie might have went there. A little resentful. Okay. I feel you. Okay. I do want to also note during this police search investigation, they also found a huge pool of, I would assume, what was now dried up blood in front of the road near Nikki and Doug's home. They also, I want to hear what y'all have to say about this because I don't mean to laugh. It's a murder. But like, how the fuck does this happen? They found a old cell phone cord, which was found by a neighbor who was mowing his lawn. I have cleaned my yard many times. I've only mowed it a couple times. I don't keep a piece of garbage, which is what I would assume this is in this case, because somebody threw their cell phone cord out the window and hang on to it to see what would happen. Am I wrong? Like, am I living in a crazy world where people do this?
Maybe he needed a new charger. Maybe his broke earlier that day.
Okay, I can get on board with that.
And
Okay.
he just thought the universe was leaving.
I can never go to Walmart again. I need this
Yes.
charger. I think though he even said, I thought it was really weird that I found this cell phone charger in my road. What? No, you live in a college town with a bunch of drunks. They threw it out the window. I put a pin in it because it's going to be crazy, but any other thoughts on that?
I do. And okay, because what keeps going through my mind is we've talked a lot about location. And do we know how far away the bars, like their hangout places they were at, is from their home? Because, for instance, like I am literally on a high dollar demand, a $7 Uber ride to any of the three little places that I hang out. So if I was walking home or walking just a block or two closer to my home or away from my home, it's still going to be in a 3 to 5 mile radius, which is going to cause that speculation that we're having with it. You know what I mean? There's going to be something around this area because I live in that college town and all the places that I hang out are a $10 less Uber ride. So if I disappeared right now and was found within that 10 mile radius, it's going to look like it was so close to his home where Cody was. So that's where my brain keeps going is how
I
far away
know.
is their home from this excursion?
Would your neighbor keep a cell phone cord and be like, "Oh, I bet Cody and David went out last night. I'm gonna go bring this to them." That's the point I'm trying to make is
Oh, 100%. Yeah, yeah, 100%. That
okay.
1% is crazy. I'm just trying to think of like the distance of.
I thought you were telling me that was normal, and I was like, I need to get
Oh,
new.
no, sorry, no. What if we speculated that?
Oh shit. Okay, so I didn't know where to throw that in, but I needed to throw it in before we go further. So I want you all to put a pin in those couple things. So now we are at 4 p.m. I want to say it loud and clear. 4 effing p.m. the next day. Doug has, I believe, called his mom and her mom and I think one of them finally said, "Did you call the police? Did you want to do something about this?" That's probably a good idea. It gave me Chris Watts vibes. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Why? Why are we doing this at 4 p.m.? But okay. So he says, all right, I'm going to call the police. I'm going to do a missing persons report. So the police, obviously, they know this body's missing. So they're at his house. I don't know why it took them an hour, but it took them an hour. And they're at his house at 5 o'clock. They start taking his statement and they say, hey, we're going to need you to continue the rest of this in the police station. So they're going to bring him into the police station for further questioning. I do also want to note it's weird, but it's not weird. And maybe y'all could tell me what you think. He did shower before he put in this missing persons report. I think he even maybe did a load of laundry. Somebody fact check me on that if you know that. Was that true? I can't remember. There were some weird things that he did. Again, it points to like the husband did it. Why are you doing this weird shit?
I want to pause you just for 1 second because I
Yeah.
just thought of something that I've never thought of before. But
Ooh.
when you're talking about, just when you're talking about this stuff, do we know if Nikki was the kind of person that would do that, where she would just take off and stay at a friend's house or stay somewhere else? If they got into a fight, did she have a place that she would go? So I don't want to give Doug the benefit of the doubt, but
I appreciate that.
But you know what? Like, what if she did do that on the regular, or she's done it a couple times, and he was just like, there she is again, like off doing whatever, and he's
No,
care of stuff, and
he actually did, I think, said in the either when they were at his house or when he was in the police station, he said this isn't a type of thing that she does. She may have went and blew off some steam, but she usually doesn't go missing for this long. I don't know what to do. I think his exact words, don't quote me on it, but we're like, I don't know what to do because this is new to me or she's never done this before.
Yeah.
I do get torn on the whole like shower thing.
Yeah, it's weird.
You have Scott and Lacey Peterson. Scott showered, he's innocent. And he did laundry, he's innocent.
Just so all the listeners know, that's David putting his little jab in, but we're going to have another episode about that, and we're not all on the same page.
Yeah, but
yes, by the reactions on our faces.
Okay, so yeah, I guess we're on the same page as far as that goes. They bring him to the police station shortly after that. During the investigation, the police already know about this dead body, so they immediately go and start searching Doug and Nikki's home. So while he is being interrogated, I want to say it was like an hour into it, they finally say, hey, we just want to let you know we found a female body earlier today, and we don't have any for sures, but the description does match up with Nikki. And I was supposed to have this keyed up, and I'm sorry I don't, but I will put in the show notes for y'all to watch a YouTube video of him in the confessional room when this is happening. It is worth the 4 or 5 minutes or whatever it is to watch. But he immediately breaks down crying, and he immediately looks very sad. But then he does this really weird, to me, in my opinion, thing where he looks, I want to say he looked like right up at the camera too, and was like, I will find them, Nikki. I will find them. I love you so much. I really loved you. I really did. And it was just like demonic is probably the wrong word for it, but it wasn't like a normal, I just found out my girlfriend died. And I have never been in that situation, so I don't know what normal is. So I'm not going to say what that should look like. But to me, it didn't look like what I've seen in the past.
And they'd already said that it wasn't definitive. So to just go to that, wouldn't you?
When you hold on to hope.
Everybody's different, but I think I would be in a shock state there's no way. It's
got to be somebody else. Yeah.
I agree. It's like, I'm not going to take my car to a place to have the tires changed if the name is Honest Bob. If you have to tell me you're honest, then I don't trust it. And so when someone hears this and all they can say is, you know how much I love you, I'm going to get revenge. But you don't even know the details yet. So how is your mind going there? Why do you have to let everyone know? It's assumed automatically that I love all of you. So if something happened to one of you, I wouldn't have to tell a camera or anybody, I just love her so much. I love her so much. I love her so much. I love her so much.
But could you though? Could you please, just for my sake?
This is somebody knows.
The moment I say I love you, I'm going to jail and I will not.
So that is an interesting point. I'm going to bring that back, David. I like what you said there because I want to bring it back to play some devil's advocate a little bit later on that, which I know like we've been a group of friends for a very long time. We covered this a really long time ago, and you all thought I was crazy when I told you like maybe it could be this, but I'm going to throw it out there again tonight. Okay, so now we're at the point of shit is stacking up against Doug, right? So we got number one. There's multiple friends who are saying he was rude to her that night. There's multiple friends who say he left her at the bar. There's multiple friends who say they constantly fought like this, which is one thing. Then we got Nikki's body is found with shoe marks on her head. I want to say it was on her forehead. And the print was consistent with an Air Jordan shoe, which Doug owned. These same shoes were found in his home and had red marks on them. They also searched Nikki's car was in their garage that night. So they searched that car. There was what was said to be and later found to be blood spots in Nikki's car. And there is constantly, they did an interview of a bunch of friends and family, including an ex-girlfriend of Doug's, and said, tell me about Doug. And everybody said he was very angry. I think Doug's ex-girlfriend at one point said he broke my nose at one point. So we've got this laundry list of Doug did it, right? Tell me differently or speculate differently on it.
It looks like open and shut case. Like,
We
Wait,
got it.
though, can I just say Jordans are very common?
I'll give you that. Yeah.
More
My son's
common
got
than
about
they
18
are.
pairs. So
More common than they are.
I'll give you that.
But he stopped her forehead. No.
And we go back to 240 injury marks.
So that it makes it overkill, which makes it more personal.
and plus, like, he is, I don't know how to say this. He is a likable suspect for a crime just because his behavior is off-putting.
And
It's not like you want to root for him.
Yeah.
To be found innocent. It's a la Scott Peterson, Chris Watts.
right. And I'll go back to Green Bay is not a place you go to and you hear about murders. The cops don't have a ton of experience in this. So they're like, yeah, that sounds good. This guy did it. Okay, goodbye. Much like we all thought, this all led to the arrest of Doug Dietrich on the suspicion of first-degree intentional homicide. Doug was immediately brought to a jail cell, and he was held there for 18 days while this evidence was processed. Fast forward to 18 days later, and you have whatever the news station is, and I can't remember, and I should because I lived there for 9 years, flashes across and says, and in breaking news today, Doug Dietrich was cleared of all the charges of Nicole VanderHeyden's murder and will be released today. Crazy shit, y'all. So we found these red marks on his shoes. Yes, he had these Jordans. Yes, it was a thing found on her forehead. Doug's a turkey hunter because everybody in fucking Green Bay either hunts or fishes. And this is my PSA, and I just saw somebody post this on Facebook the other day. Every man out there, and girls, if your man does this, if we see you holding a fish or a deer head or a whatever you just killed, we don't want that on your dating profile.
Not sexy.
Stop it. Just stop it. So that was evidence number one that stacked up in the favor of Doug. Evidence number two, they tested the blood in Nikki's car. It was found to be the blood of one of her older children who had cut her knee or hand or something earlier that week. But, and Kashi, this is why I brought this up earlier, the real saving grace for Doug is the officers went back to his original interrogation video because they recorded it when they went to his house, and they said, hey, we saw him wearing one of these. This is a fake Fitbit, I'm just putting it out there, but we saw him wearing one of these apparatuses that tracks your steps and everything. Clearly that will show us something. And so they went back into his Fitbit data, and I think actually Dateline cleverly labeled this episode like the Fitbit saver, the Fitbit killer, or something
The
weird
Fitbit
like that.
alibi.
The Fitbit alibi. Thank you.
Okay.
And then later changed, I think, to silent witness. I think they changed.
Yeah, officers pulled this Fitbit data, and it was right in line with what Doug said. He got home at this time. He got up to feed the baby and made like 15 steps to go in these multiple rooms, went back to bed, made another 15 steps around this time, and then it got more active at whenever he got up from his hangover at 2 or 3 in the afternoon, right? So this, again, worked in his favor. Who knew? I will also say they also pulled Doug's cell phone location data, and this coincided with what the Fitbit said. And so now they have no evidence to hold him on. So, of course, yeah, you get released. So now the case is cold. So Green Bay, of course, goes into a little bit of a frenzy. Oh my God, the murder's still out there. What's going on? Or, oh my God, how did you let this guy go? He clearly did it. He got away with murder. Until 2 months later, somebody do the math because I don't know where we're at this point. But they did send in, remember, Nikki had on socks, right? That was the only piece of clothing that she still had on that could hold any kind of DNA. I don't know if those bracelets can or cannot. But finally, Crime Lab came back and said, hey, we got a DNA match for these socks that Nikki had on her body. And guess who the DNA did not match up to? One Mr. Doug Dietrich. The plot thickens. Who does it match up to? Who is this guy that is on Nikki's socks? It matches up to a gentleman by the name of George Birch.
Don't call him a gentleman.
It matches up to this slime ball,
Thank you.
this asshole, this garbage person by the name of George Birch. Who, and I have this later in my notes, but I'm just going to say it now because it's fitting. This is how you know this guy is a fucking tool. He called himself Big Country. Please don't call me George Birch. Please call me Big Country. The fuck?
He definitely has a hunting picture on his dating app.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
He does. That actually is going to come up. He took a picture with a fucking fish.
Yeah, he did.
So anyways, so everybody's like, who the fuck is this guy? So they do some research. He's from Virginia. The fuck is he doing? I'm not that awful with geography. Green Bay is in the middle of the state or the country. Virginia is way over here. What happened? Why are you here? And nobody ever decides, I live in the southern state. And you know what I really want to do? I want to go up north and I want to be cold. That doesn't fucking happen. We go south. I chose to move to Florida. I can say that. So anyways, they pull his arrest record up. Previously arrested for murder among 5 other convictions. Seems like a stellar dude. Again, to Janelle's point, he's not a fucking gentleman. He's a dick. Plan words for where they found them at later. Tell you guys.
And a dick.
Oh yeah. Just wait till I told you there's one more weird bar name.
I'm like, they found him where?
Okay, so how did he end up in Green Bay? Months before this happened, there was a gentleman by the name of Edward Jensen who was from New York. He was in New York. I think he was in New York. I'm sorry if I get this wrong. But anyways, he runs into George Birch. They're at a bar one night. I'm sure he's like, I'm Big Country. Tell me what you are, right? Like this whole bullshit. And he's like, oh, you seem like a really nice guy. I think he was like, had a wife or a girlfriend. Don't quote me on what it was. But he was in this relationship that was going to shit. And he was like, my whole life sucks. I got nothing going for me here. So Jensen is like, hey, me and my wife, we got nothing going for us up in Green Bay. Come up there. It's a really nice city. You'll love it. Right. So George Birch, probably trying to get away from these 5 other fucking charges, is, yeah, that sounds great. I'm going to move up to Green Bay. And he's down on his luck. I'm going to move to Green Bay. Cool. So the police interviewed Ed and the wife. How was George? Was he a good person? Oh, yeah, everybody loved him. He would give you the shirt off his back. He always went to this bar and everybody called him Big Country and everybody really loved him. Here's where the other bar name comes into play. And I'm going to do a poll. So the bar that George Birch would frequent was called Richard Cranium's. What do y'all think about it?
Dickheads.
Hey, you're quick. You're quick, Janelle.
You're quick, Janelle. I fucking lived in Green Bay for 8 years. And would get pissed off at that bar. And I would purposely not go to that bar because I was like, that is the dumbest name for a bar. Who names their bar Richard Cranium's? Today years old, everybody, when I found out it was dickheads. So there's that. Welcome to Wisconsin.
Sometimes there's those moments I have when I'm like, maybe I am a man. Because like, I think that's genius and I love it. But I feel like
I found it out, yeah.
I feel like it'd be such a alpha man thing to say. I'm going to the dick chromosome or whatever you called it. And so there's those moments I'm like,
time out. Can you please say what I called it again?
Dick chromosome? What was it called?
Chromosome. Hey, Wisconsin likes to have stupid bar names, so maybe you're onto something.
Look.
I like stupid bar names. So
would you go to the dick chromosome?
I probably would. And then yes, the dick chromosome. And then I would order like whatever the fancy name on tap would be.
Police gathered his cell phone data, and it showed that he was at Richard Cranium's all night, the night that Nikki went missing on May 20th, 2016. The bar was also in the direction that everybody saw Nikki go off into the drunken black abyss. They also later pulled cell phone data to show that George Birch's cell phone was shown at Nikki's house for some time, as well as in a field where her body was discovered. So this seems open and shut, right? I will also note George the next day, so May 21st, went on a pre-planned fishing trip with Ed, day after Nikki's murder, took a fucking fish picture because apparently somebody wanted to fuck him after seeing that. And it can be seen on the picture that he has a bunch of cuts on his hand. So obviously the police went to him and said, hey, we got all this shit against you. What's your story? So George Birch stated, here's what happened. I was at Richard Cranium's all night, like I am every night, because I'm a fucking big country guy. Like nobody hangs out at Richard Cranium's.
David.
I did.
But he doesn't call himself Big Country. He has a cooler name. And Nikki walks in. I can't remember what time. And they start talking. They start hitting it off. And as douchebag, George is telling the police, ask him, did you think you all were going to have sex that night? And he said, yeah, I thought that's where this was going. We were flirting. We were both going back and forth on some things. And so then I offered to give her a ride home. We got to her house and she said, we can't go inside. My baby daddy boyfriend, whatever she called him, is inside. And so they proceeded. Again, I am telling George's story. Please, this is not Jamie's story. So then they proceeded to have sex in the back of his truck with him. I'm not going to give you all too much of the visual, but here's the truck. Her ass is hanging out here. He's here. This is how they're supposedly having sex. Supposedly, Doug comes out as they're finishing up. He hits George with something in the back of his head. George hits the back of the concrete, passes out for a little bit, wakes up to him saying, look what you made me do, claiming that Doug at that point had beat Nikki up or strangled her or something to make her now be unalive, and then forced George to pick up her body, put it in the truck, go to the field, made George put it into the field, and then drove away. And I should note, Nikki's clothes were found like somewhere along the way between the house and the field, or somewhere in the area, because they were thrown out of a window. So George's story was that he threw him out of the window because he didn't want to be caught, type of thing. So now we're at a who did it, right? So the case is going to go to trial. And with now George's testimony of what actually happened, now they're both going to trial. So it was over 2 weeks long. So I think it was like about 17 days of a trial. Then finally the jury had to go into deliberation. They went into deliberation for about 3 hours and immediately came out and said that George was found guilty of first-degree intentional homicide. And who can guess what their deciding factor was? The fucking weird cell phone charger. They said that charger had DNA on it, and it was the DNA from both of them, and that's what was our deciding. Again, this neighbor, hero for you, I guess, but also you're fucking weird that you're saving that stuff.
And now you got to go buy your own.
And now you don't even get to keep it. Yeah, and then George went to jail. I mean, there are some people out there still who do believe that George is innocent and that Doug is actually this dick that maybe did this crime, which I can play devil's advocate and I can see, but like, then I go back to the Fitbit and the cell phone data, and what did George cut his Fitbit off and then they left the baby in the house? I don't know. Speculate with me, y'all. I'm not sure.
So I would love to have a little vote on if we think George is guilty or innocent.
All right, we can go around the horn. Nat, who killed Nikki? Sorry, you're first on my screen.
I definitely think the husband, as much as he is a piece of trash and didn't care enough about Nikki to go after her, he probably didn't kill her.
I am next on my screen, and I just based on what I said earlier, like I don't think as shitty as Doug was, and maybe he would have done this in a rage, but I don't think he would have left the baby home alone. So I think George did it. Missy?
I'm actually with you. I think that because that's why this case was so crazy when I first heard it too, is just the fact that everything points to Doug. Everything. And then she meets some random dude at the bar who is also is a piece of shit. He's got this criminal background, and it's like one of those very rare instances, but I also think George 100% did it. Douchebag, took advantage of the situation he was in and killed her.
Janelle?
I agree. I still struggle with the amount of wounds she had.
Right.
That's the craziest part to me, is that's a lot of effort for somebody that you've known for an hour, that.
Couldn't it be that he came from some kind of trauma, or maybe his divorce was really bad, where he, like in a Ted Bundy type of way, like imagined her being somebody else?
That's
Potentially. And then also agree with everything about Doug. I don't think he killed her. I think they were just a bad match. But anyway, it's so chilling to know, like, she was in like the front of the house, like in the yard, like this close.
So close.
I don't remember like what. Okay, this brings up a good point. I don't remember what they said the actual time that George was in front of the house, or that cell phone data said he was in front of the house. Was this when they were smoking the joint? Was this right after he went to bed? Did the friend like see the car there and not notice that it was that?
Was it before Doug got home?
Yeah, and I wish I could remember that too.
Yeah, it could have been before he got home.
Because
then the babysitter was in the house.
Was she killed in the field or in front of the house?
In front of the house.
She was killed in front of the house. Yeah.
How? If these are like duplexes, like those.
Yeah, they're like this.
It's not like your neighbors are miles away.
Do you think it was like a Kitty Genevieve type thing, where they're like, "Oh, we hear that screaming, but like we're not going to pay attention to it"?
I want to say he strangled her first.
Oh, that could be. But then, okay, then back to Janelle's point, why do you then beat her up and have 240 wounds after you kill her?
And if that had happened in front of the house, there would be blood everywhere.
So there was a big pool in front of her house. They did find that, which was later found to be her blood. David, what do you think?
So I know this may sound a little crazy, but I'm very interested in the babysitter, because there was an article I was reading that said that when she and George pulled up to potentially have sex at their house, she's like, "Oh, the babysitter's still here," so that they decided to have sex outside of the truck. Could the babysitter have been coerced into put my Fitbit on and stay here with the baby because you were now involved in this mess? Because what I think in my head in my Lifetime movie with this is Doug comes outside and sees her and George having sex at the truck and attacks them. George, of course, with his record, is freaking out because he's like, "I can't go back to jail. I'm just going to keep this secret, whatever." She's getting kicked in the head by Doug, which is how it gets on the slipper. The babysitter's inside with a Fitbit when they get rid of the body. I don't think that George has. I don't think all of his story is true, but I think there's a lot of truth behind it. I don't think that he was the one that killed her, but I think that, I don't know. I just have questions with the babysitter and the connection with all three. They're having sex in their truck, like outside of the house, with the babysitter's still there, and the drunk, jealous boyfriend that's now being cheated on.
But then the person that he was with would have been able to recount this, right? Because Doug was with one of his friends when they showed.
Yeah,
forgot about that.
I do think they like interviewed him a couple times, and he kept saying, I can't remember. All I remember is going back there and then going to my house. I don't know what happened type thing.
Do you guys remember anything about hearing if Big Country had Air Jordans?
Oh, I don't remember that. That is a good question because, okay, even if all this shit was, okay, big countries, DNA's on her socks, whatever, but
It,
he didn't have Jordans.
it could prove some involvement from Doug.
I didn't even think about, hey, I think her name is Dallas. Wear this Fitbit. I need you to do this shit for me right now. This crazy shit's happening.
Especially, and granted, I could be wrong. I don't know anything about the babysitter, but in my mind, I think you're calling a friend's 14, 15-year-old daughter to babysit that wants $50, right? And so,
No, she was, I think she was sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think she was a friend of Nikki's that was their age, but maybe she was a little bit younger, but.
Gotcha. Okay. But even still, yeah, it's still the whole, you were here with this, you witnessed this, you
better shut up. Yeah.
Yeah. What do they call it?
You keep being an accessory.
But yeah, where it's that fear of keep your mouth shut, put this Fitbit on, take care of my baby, keep your mouth shut. I just want to know more about the babysitter.
Okay, but then to play devil's advocate with that for a little bit, why was only George's DNA found on her socks and not Doug's if he did beat her down like that?
Did George have his pants down, which would expose his socks or her socks or whatever, versus tennis shoes and jeans?
And
yeah, and I guess
checked her DNA and his DNA to be on each other because they were a couple.
So but no, they said his DNA wasn't on the socks.
Yep. We forgot to mention how big George was.
Oh,
big
yeah.
country. Big. So he was 6'7" and 270 pounds.
Oh, wow.
So he would have to, it just says they would have to have sex with him standing outside of the truck.
That's right.
But it doesn't really say which way he's standing outside of the truck. But either way, let's think about that though. I don't know how big Doug was, but if Doug comes up from behind, big country's a big dude.
I think Doug, they said he was 5'10", 5'11", like maybe 170 pounds. Like he was your typical, sorry to say this, but like white douchebag guy in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
And big country, George, we're just going to call, because I hate that nickname. I'm just going to, douchebag George, like he's a big guy. How are you going to, you're going to come up behind him and knock him out? But he's like super tall over you.
Unless he's that drunk.
Usually though, if you're that drunk, and that's the other, let's think of, if you're really fucked up and you're a big dude, you don't know how much fucking damage you're doing to somebody like Nikki either. Yeah, because she's pretty tiny. You've got that's 200 and whatever injuries, but
just keep going back to that.
Maybe he's like full of rage. He's drinking whiskey or whatever, and he's.
I do like the point that someone made of the aggression of the hatred toward other issues being taken on her, because what wasn't he like going through a divorce and
there's that
where he, and of course you don't know much about his child life. It's like you hear the point that, was it you, Jamie, I think that was making. I really liked that a lot because
like Ted Bundy syndrome.
Yeah, like you hear about, like when I watch like the Halloween movies, right? That when they wanted to paint Michael Myers as he took out his aggression on a certain type of person because of certain things.
Yeah. He's terrifying, by the way. I'm deathly afraid of him. Just putting that out there for all of you who ever meet me.
Which one?
Michael Myers is terrifying to me.
Michael Myers? Oh, he is. You're right.
Dave and I have different opinions of him. That's okay.
I'm just kidding.
That's why we're all friends. We all have different opinions on things.
I want to also go back to what you had said earlier about, remember how no one could hear her scream. It was, detectives did think that it was because he had strangled her first, but also the whole belief was that he had tried to sexually assault her, and
she said no.
She said no. She had a 4-month-old baby, so she was still breastfeeding too. So that was like another thing that actually pushed them more in the direction of George being the guilty person, because, or why part of the reason why she would have said no to him or whatever it was.
So I'm guessing like in all like the appeals process, like nothing ever changed, he's still in prison.
George, yeah.
I think he has lifetime sentence, I want to say. I'm going to look it up. Life in prison.
I got life in prison. No chance of parole.
No chance of parole was told in 2018. Yeah.
So we're all in the
We're kind of
George,
all in agreeance, yeah.
the one thing we didn't mention, do you remember?
The car?
Yeah.
Yeah, talk about that.
Okay. So I don't have a lot about that, just the fact that, so yeah, this is after a year later. Doug Dietrich was later charged with reckless endangerment and false imprisonment of Nicole VanderHeyden's sister 1 year later, after he had tried to, are you ready? Yeah. Oh, wait. So hold on. No, I messed up, but they went to a party together and she rejected his sexual advances. So he actually locked her inside of his car and started driving very erratically down the highway and would not let her out.
And this was after the death.
This was about a year later.
Wow.
I thought you were going to talk about, though, there was George Birch before he got arrested and before the fishing trip, he had borrowed Ed and whatever his wife's name's car was and did something and had a hit and run and either left the car there or burned it and was like, to David's point, like very afraid, like, I can't get arrested, I can't go to jail again. And so tried to bury that evidence. So he was already in that mindset. And this happened within a week of Nikki's murder.
And I believe that's why they had his DNA on file.
That was part of the reason. But I think at this point, CODIS was a thing. So like the other like murder charge that he had was already like in the CODIS system. But another interesting fact that we didn't talk about when we talked about take 184 when we did this way back was I wonder if we could tie George Birch to any other murders, right? Because he was a nomad and he, like a Brian Kohlberger, like this probably wasn't, if you have 240, I'll go back to your point, Janelle, 240 injury marks. This isn't your first rodeo, bro. You've done this before.
Do we know what ever happened to the murder or whatever was used? The knife?
No, there was no knife. It was just the cell phone cord.
Strangulation.
They strangled her. And I think everything else was like kicks and stomps.
He stomped on her when she, yeah.
Yeah, it was no, that's what makes it even worse, is there's no puncture wounds, there's no gunshots.
God,
I did say some of the wounds could have happened from when she fell out of the truck, because it was assumed that she tried to get away from him, and in the effort to get away from him, she might have fallen out of the truck, and some of the injuries might have come from that. But
wow,
once she got out of the truck is when he stomped on her.
I just completely assumed they were knife marks.
They're all bruises and yeah. Which that's even worse, right? That's even more personal because like a knife, at least you have a weapon and you're using it, right? Like I'll go back to Brian Kohlberger where okay, I did this and it was quick and it was easy. If you're stomping somebody and you're punching somebody and you're kicking somebody, that takes a lot of effort.
Yeah. And noise.
Yeah. There's neighbors that know shit that haven't said anything, I feel like. Those houses were very much, they're not like Florida, but they were pretty fucking close. And yeah, it was 3 a.m. But again, we're in a city where we don't think murder happened. So if I hear something like that,
I was going to say that'd
cranking my head outside.
That'd be the worst time to have that because everybody would hear it and they're going to be pissed because it's like, bitch, it's 3 a.m. I'm in bed.
But again, yeah, she couldn't scream. So there's that.
But you would even think, like to Janelle's point, like if I'm kicking somebody, I'm putting all my force on it. Like I do, or like you hear a thud, right?
Yeah.
Especially if it's happening that many times. It's not like I kicked you twice and it's over and I woke up and I heard it and I went back to bed and I didn't hear it again, right? Like that had to have been going on for a half hour at least. I'm speculating. I've never kicked somebody to death.
I was like, how much noise does that make? I'm not sure. That's like a Mythbusters episode or something where they.
No, we should hire. What's the lawyer's name? Catherine Zellner for Stephen Avery, where she like pushed the body out of the car and did that whole thing. Yeah. Hire her for this and see how much noise it makes, and then go question all those neighbors.
Cases. All of them, all of the cases we covered. Just do a reenactment.
We're gonna put her on retainer.
Yeah,
we have enough money. It's fine.
There's that part of me that is like about the 240 injuries.
What?
would that be an experience or would that be a first time because of all that built up anger? Because there's so much built up anger and they're finally releasing it as a just punch and kick after punch and kick that led to that 240. And so that's the first kill versus it being a consistent, because eventually you would think after some of that is released, it might be 200 licks and then 150. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good point. I never thought of it that way. I could see that.
I want to point out just the fact that poor Nikki, because she did not have a chance.
Yeah.
Because the guy that she was with was a piece. Doug is a piece. And then she meets this random stranger at the bar and he
So she's
just,
probably maybe save me or something, right?
yeah, she's having a bad night. She's having a shit night with her boyfriend, baby daddy, who doesn't obviously care about her. It's very apparent. And then she meets this guy at the bar that decides he wants to kill her because she won't have sex with him.
But here's when you look at statistics, this is the sad truth. When it's like victims almost have a magnet to each other, like one can tell another victim from another. But I also think you can tell in statistics, like so many people are like, oh, of course her first husband did this, now her boyfriend does this, and her ex-boyfriend did that, and she's always a victim. But there's a pattern and a mindset that attracts that. There's a reason for that. The person that is a victim of something is more likely to be a victim of it again versus someone who hasn't before. And so absolutely, like I see exactly what you're saying, Missy, but there's that part of me that's absolutely she was drawn to this dude.
Or they were drawn to her
because of the first bad one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think when you get into that victim mentality, like that is what you deserve. That's what you can do. That's the best you can do.
I was going to say, or the other way around would be she shows up, she's vulnerable, she's drunk, she's upset. George, who's looking for something, whatever he was looking for, like Nikki was the easy target. And that
I always thought it was a situation where she had no intention of sleeping
with them.
No.
Yep.
She just was in a rough spot. Some man comes over. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Can I buy you a drink? Do you need to talk? Maybe
I 100% don't think she was trying to get with this George guy at all.
And then it was just like, oh, this nice man.
I'm finally getting
paying attention in a positive way.
Give me a ride home.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful. Like I don't think it was ever. I feel like this flirtation situation that he concocted was.
Which there may have been a little bit of truth to that, because I'm gonna raise my hand a lot when we do this shit, y'all. But I have been that girl, right, where I'm like, to David's point, oh, somebody's finally giving me attention, I'm gonna feed into this. But never in that situation do I think I'm gonna go home and fuck him.
Yeah.
He probably thinks that because of what I'm doing and what I'm saying. Yeah. But never in my head am I going to go do that.
Or maybe
he just talked to him and he thinks she's flirting.
That could be it. But I don't know. Big country, has everybody talked to him? So maybe not.
I showed her a picture with the fish, and then it was all.
But let me ask you though, like, if she did think, or if some person thought, yeah, I'm gonna go fuck this person, does that change anything?
No,
it doesn't.
100%. No.
You can change your mind
it
in the middle
doesn't
of it.
give you. It still does never, ever, never. Even if you do change your mind, even if you call them 1,000 names in the book, and I'm not a religious person, you are not God. You don't get to decide when somebody's life ends.
Nope.
So no.
I guess it's just if they had gone somewhere else, if this had happened somewhere else, but the fact that they went to her home, like that's what makes me believe.
Yeah, she had no intention, right?
Correct. Otherwise, why would you go to the place where you live with someone?
You know, like right outside my house, like just right here. Right outside my house. Jamie's like,
College Jamie may have done that just to like spite.
That's what I was going to say, is on both parts of their relation, and this is not shut the slut shaming or anything by any means. Like, two consensual adults, have at it. I don't give a fuck. But I would like to know a little bit more of the history. Did they consider an open relationship? And, you know, what was this? Was this the first time that she's ever taken sexual excursions or promiscuous stuff or jealousy this far? Or had he cheated many times before? Was this a revenge thing? Was this you know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's so many factors that play into it. Could she have said, and again, this is not victim blaming, but could she have said, let's go park in front of my house, let's make out in front of my house, knowing my boyfriend's going to see this, I'm going to get him back for the girl because he fucked a girl last week and now I'm getting my revenge.
Or not even that, but like she was probably still reeling from the fact that he picked up Angela's call and she was probably like, oh, you're fucking Angela.
Yeah. Someone pull up at the house in front of a dude, he'll come out because he'll see truck lights, I'm making out with you. And then you have a 6'7" guy, 250 whatever pounds, that's I'm sorry, little Barbie, my Ken is gonna, like, you woke him up and then it escalates.
Yeah, and then she's like, no, never mind.
Yeah.
And then the fuck happens. Yeah.
And I do want to again say, just for the record, that is not victim blaming. It makes me so mad, and I'm going to go on a tangent for 10 seconds, but it makes me so mad when a woman is sexually assaulted and the first thing that we want to say is, what was she wearing? The minute it is not consensual, regardless.
Right.
100%. That actually goes for sober and intoxicated.
Yeah.
You can be as fucked up as whatever. It does
no
not.
Still means no.
Does not.
In every language, drunk and sober count as languages too. I did the Nikki walk in Green Bay, and the cop, that was his words to me. You cannot be out here walking in that outfit. I need to take you home.
And not trying to be ugly toward the cop, because I appreciate what he did. But the fact that you've got to go home and cover up because you're in danger because of what you're wearing versus focusing on the problem, which is
right.
The dude that.
Like, why am I shamed? And that I said that to him. I thought I was doing the right thing and walking home. Yeah, I'm by myself, but yeah. So you're right. There is a problem in society where we're so used to saying those types of things and thinking that's okay. We thank you for taking the time to listen to our very first episode of Speculating Wildly About Crime. We welcome any thoughts, suggestions, and even case recommendations. You can either comment below or reach out to us on our socials, which include Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram at SWACPod. Again, it's the SWACPOD, all one word. Your support means everything to us. So if you did find yourself liking what you heard, we now invite you to listen to our 2-part Maura Murray episode, which is up and available to you all today. So what are you waiting for? Come speculate wildly with us.